Hey everybody, what is going on? Serial Overdrive here, and today I'm playing Entropia Universe. What I'm going to be doing today, as you guys can tell by the sign in front of me, is talking about Crystal Palace and the Crystal Palace deed sale. So what I'm going to go over in this video is just what Crystal Palace is, sort of how it works, what the deed deal is, and when I think of the situation. So first off, what is Crystal Palace? Crystal Palace is an asteroid situated just outside of the world Calypso in Entropia Universe. So if you go to the space map, you can see here's Calypso, Crystal Palace right here. It's pretty easy to get to, pretty safe to get to too, in my opinion. I was actually shot at while I was coming here from Calypso. They could not kill me in the time it took me to get to Crystal Palace. It was a pretty safe run, pretty easy to make, and there's some mobs here that are interesting. So a lot of higher level players, like this player right here, are going to be making the run. So you do see a few players on Calypso, or on Crystal Palace. And the reason for this is there's two mobs on Crystal Palace that are nowhere else in the Entropia universe. These are Aruli and Krelton. These are high-level mobs. The lowest level that you're going to find of either of these mobs is level 33. Now, I know here it says weak is level 42, but there actually is a level 33 Aruli that you can find. Kretlin is, I think you can find level 33 as well, which it actually says here. You'll notice they do a lot of acid impact. Well, acid and impact, that's sort of the damage they do. Kretlin are purely impact and acid. Aruli are at acid, impact, stab, and it looks like they're a little bit of cut. That would make it the perfect mob for gremlin armor. For those of you wondering, that's actually why I got a set of gremlin armor, because back in the day, I wanted to come up here and hunt some of these mobs because of the stuff they looted. They looted some really sweet stuff. So having impact, acid, and stab are extremely important, which is sort of what gremlin is best at. Anyways, so basically these mobs came on like Crystal Palace was the first world outside of Calypso that was ever launched by Mindark. At the time, it was owned by Mindark. Later, it was sold to an avatar known as Buzz Lightyear. Buzz Lightyear now has decided to sell deeds to Crystal Palace in the form of 500,000 deeds, going for 10 PEDs each, or 1 USD, meaning he hopes to make $500,000 out of this deal. Now, some of that money obviously is going to go to, Mindark, because they're setting this whole thing up, but I'm sure he's going to be at least breaking even on the deal. If you do the math, all he has to do is make 75%, and he's doing pretty good because he bought it for 330,000 USD back in 2009. So now we're going to one of the domes that is sort of within Crystal Palace. This dome holds Krelton. These are some high-level mobs. You can see level 51. These things would kill me instantly right now. I'm not wearing any armor, so we're not going to go out. One thing also to notice about this area is you can't really mine here. At least you couldn't back in my day. We can drop a probe, though, just to see what happens, right? But why not? You'll notice it could not execute. Please try again. You cannot mine on Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace is it's a mob only. It's a hunting only area. So keep that in mind when you're buying these deeds. These deeds are only going to be going towards sort of hunting loot, so like hunting returns, right? You're only going to be getting money from sort of the avatars that are out here hunting. Oh, wow, look at that. I just got swarmed at the teleporter, and they're all dead. So it's okay. But you're going to notice, again, there's not many green dots here. That's why I'm going dome to dome, because one of the things that's important to know when you're going... well, when you're going to buy deeds in an area, or when you're going to buy sort of a piece of something, is how often it's used. Dome 2 is probably the most active dome on Crystal Palace, and you're going to see maybe 1 or 2 avatars here at a time. You're not going to see much. You notice these are heavy spawns, so most avatars are not going to go too far from the teleporter. Again, here you notice one guy just came in. Where is he? He's over there. He's got some high-level armor, high-level gear, because these are high-level mobs. So that's one thing that I want everybody to pay attention to. Crystal Palace does not have as many people as Club Never Die, but it has sort of close to the same number, I'd say, actually. Crystal Palace doesn't have as many people, though, as Arcadia or the Arcadia Moon or anything like that. But again, look at these mobs. Level 48, we've got a level 33 here. I told you there's level 33, even though it doesn't say it. But Crystal Palace is for high-level hunters. High-level hunters are going to spend more and they're going to loot more. So one high-level hunter might be worth, I don't know, 30, 40 newbies, maybe even more, right? Because newbies aren't spending that much money. They might be spending 1 P. They're probably spending 10 PECs to 50 PECs a kill. Maybe. Let's say 50 PECs a kill. A high-level player with the guns and gear required to kill a level 33 mob is probably spending more like 10 to 20 PEDs. Well, maybe not that high. They might be spending 5 to 10 PEDs to kill some of these mobs. Some of the high-level mobs, they might be spending more, even like 10 to 20 PEDs, like I was saying earlier. And that is something you want to pay attention to because that means the loot is going to be higher. So if you get 10 people hunting up here constantly, you're going to be making more than you would be if you got 300 newbies on the Arcadia Moon mining. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Even though I know it seems like no one's here and it's dead, just a few people here is sort of enough. Now, that said, there has been some information released by Mindark regarding these deeds, okay? So, as I said earlier, 500,000 deeds, 10 PEDs each. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to get those. I don't think you can get them on auction yet, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I've been gone for a while, folks. I just wanted to get this video out and talk about these deeds because I do have some interesting stuff to say, I think. So, they're going to be selling for 10 PEDs each. That's 1 USD. Previously, Mindark said that the return on Crystal Palace is about 17% of the purchase price. That's roughly sort of the numbers that they released. So if you do that, that means that this avatar is making about $56,000, right? Like just 330,000 USD times 0.17, $56,000. So if you owned all 500,000 deeds, you'd be making $56,100. I just did the math on that. So the easy way to do this is you take 500,000. Let me just do the math here real quick on a calculator. Take 500,000 divided by 60, divided by that 17%. You're going to be making about 8.9% if you bought all the deeds. This number basically will go down into any number you make it, right? So you can expect to make 8.9% roughly per year on whatever you spend on deeds for Crystal Palace. This is sort of on par with what you'd expect most deeds to be paying out. There are a few things though to consider with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, in my opinion, is declining in interest. It's been around for a long time, so you've only got a lot of people here who are hunting more for loot or something like that, right? It used to be a place that people would come to hunt professionally, but unfortunately, because of taxes and just the fact that there are more worlds out there to hunt on, a lot of players are sort of passing by Calypso Palace now and going to somewhere like Arcadia, Entropia, or staying on Calypso even. So keep that in mind, especially with all these hunts going on. A lot of players, again, a lot of these high-level players who used to come on Hunt or Ruli or Krelton are coming on now just for Merry Mayhems or, Summer Mayhem or Halloween Mayhem. There's a ton of them, right? There's a ton of them, and people are doing those things. They're eating them up, but that's actually bad for places like Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace used to be a place that a lot of teams would come up here on the weekend. They'd put in a solid couple hours hunting these mobs. They'd hope to get a nice loot from these mobs because they loot some high markup stuff. And a lot of that stuff's been replaced by stuff that you can loot on different planets or just new stuff that Mindark's released, which leads to, again, the fact that this area is sort of declining in interest. I believe that's actually why Buzz Lightyear wants to sell it. He did the math. He made the money off of it. He got that money out, and he knows now Crystal Palace is sort of declining, so he's decided to just hand it over via deeds to the players. Now, this is sort of cool because Mindark probably is going to get control of Crystal Palace again, and they might do some stuff to sort of revitalize it. And if you really believe they're going to do this, this might be a good investment. But let me just throw out the facts here and sort of tell you where I stand. Right now, Arcadia Moon deeds currently are not for sale on auction. That's because Mindark has not sold all of them. You can see NANA right here. That means they haven't been sold on auction. I looked, there's none for sale. Mindark has not sold all of the Arcadia Moon deeds. They've had roughly 1 year to do that as of me making this video. They haven't been able to. That is a little bit troubling because it means that there's not as much interest in deeds as there once was. So keeping that in mind, there's probably less of an interest in these deeds than there would be in sort of the deeds before it. and you can see they're not in global auction yet. So I'm not sure why they're holding off selling these deeds. Maybe Mindark's waiting to just get rid of all the moon deeds. Who knows? But the moon deeds did not sell as good as Mindark was hoping. Obviously, you can see Compat was sort of traded in for those deeds, and still it didn't sell. Still, they're not all sold out. So that is a bit worrying to me. That's something that says, hey, maybe this might not be the best investment. Maybe deeds are actually falling in price, or maybe they're going to start. Because if you look at this, you can see so far they have been going up in value, but they sort of petered out right now. They're sort of holding around 1,900 for Calypso deeds. And for Arcadia deeds, they've actually dropped a little bit. They used to be worth about 80 PEDs, then 72. Now they're worth about 68. So you're seeing a decline in the interest in deeds. Part of this is Mayhem. People are selling their deeds, trying to compete with Mayhem. They're hoping to get the highest score. And to get the highest score, they're going to spend all their money on that. It is what it is. That's sort of how it works. And there's going to be a little bit of a jump in deed prices later on because people are buying the bag after Mayhem. That's just how the game works. That's how some players act. It is what it is. But still, you can see there's a declined interest in deeds. And that's not horrible. That's not horrible. It's not the end of the world. But you've got to keep that in mind when buying Crystal Palace deeds. You've got to realize that these things might be stuck at 10 PEDs for a long, long time while they sell. 500,000 US dollars has to be spent on these deeds for them all to get released. And until then, no one's going to be buying deeds for over 10 PEDs a deed. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The return of 8.9% is pretty decent. It's on par with what you'd expect sort of for a stock that, has a decent dividend and is going to go up in value. It's a little bit low, I think, for something like Entropia Universe, where you've got to deposit money and you're paying a percentage deposit and then you're buying deeds with that. It's a little low for that, but it is what it is. A lot of people, they love this game. They love investing in the game, so they get that passive income. That's what I love. That's how I do it. I get passive income. That's how I play. So I can see the draw there. I can definitely see the draw. But yeah, overall, I don't think this is a bad offering. I don't think Crystal Palace deeds are going to completely fail you. I don't think it's like moon deeds where you're taking a risk, where you're like, I don't know what this moon's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like. Crystal Palace, it's a known. We know sort of the returns are there. They've given us at least 1 year of data on that. We know roughly where we stand with that. So we know that we're going to be making about 8.9%. I'm running these numbers just based off of sort of the sale price and what Mindark said in the press release. You guys can run the numbers yourself and see if I'm right or wrong. Comment down below. If I'm wrong, most of you guys will comment anyways if I'm wrong. So, that's cool. But yeah, I think it's a no. We know it's going to be, we know what the returns are going to be. We know it's pretty solid. This is basically deeds coming out like Calypso deeds or Arcadia Underground deeds. The product exists. The product is somewhat successful. So we know what we're buying. With Arcadia Moon deeds, it was more of a gamble. We didn't know what we were getting, and I think because it's not as popular as a lot of people imagine, but it's actually doing better than I thought. A lot of people are not buying Moon deeds right now, whereas Crystal Palace deeds, everybody sort of knows what they're getting. So I think there might be some interest there because, again, we're sitting with a solid product. In the past, anything that Mindark's done sort of before release has seemed to sort of fail a little bit. Combat deeds, you had that. Moon deeds, you're sort of seeing that now. A lot of people buy these things speculatively, and when they don't get rich right off the bat, they get a little bit depressed about it. Crystal Palace deeds, I think right off the bat, people are going to come up here. They're going to see it. They're going to say, hey, it's a little bit dead, but the people coming here are spending big money, so maybe it's worth buying. One thing, though, to remember is if there's only a few people spending big money, you're sort of at their mercy, right? If those few players decide not to keep playing, or if Mindark does something to piss them off, or if one of these two mobs gets nerfed, you're screwed. Those deeds you hold will drop in value, and they will drop like stones. There's no mining to hold it up. There's no hunting of any other mob to hold it up. There's just two mobs. So if those items that those mobs keep losing value, or those mobs, something weird happens with them, it's going to be bad. But there's also the advantage of you've got two mobs you can find nowhere else. They're interesting mobs to hunt. They're fun mobs to hunt as a team. And they loot some unique items. So yeah, overall, I'd say I'd be cautious about Crystal Palace deeds, but I think overall they're going to be sort of a good asset for people to hold. You're not going to see them go up too much in value. Maybe in 3 years, they might be worth 15 to 20 PEDs. I could be wrong on that, but that'd be my guess. Like 1 to 3 years out, you're going to see the value of these things sitting around 15 to 20 PEDs. You're probably going to see the returns go up a little bit and then sort of drop back down as interest fades. Then you might get the value dropping back down to maybe more like 10 PEDs. I think 8.9% is a decent return if that number holds. And I think overall, I like the fact that MindArc's got a product that already exists. We've had it for over 10 years now, so we sort of know what's going on with it. And we can just sit back and passively invest in this and sort of get these deeds for a fair price. So, yeah, like I know a lot in the past I've been sort of negative about a lot of this stuff, but I'm sort of lukewarm about Crystal Palace. I think it's a good opportunity. I think it's a pretty solid opportunity. If you've got money in game sitting around that you don't know what to do with, maybe you want to buy some of these deeds. You'll get money right off the bat, and you're probably not going to be seeing huge returns from them. It's probably going to be paying out weekly, even monthly, but if you can wait that time, I think you'll be okay. Again, you're not going to get rich off this. You're not going to make a ton of money. You're not going to double your money right overnight. You're going to slowly see the value of these deeds go up and down just a little bit. You might see them drop down to 9 or even 8 PEDs as players freak out when they don't get rich. But I think in the end, they're going to hold their value fairly well. I think you're going to get constant returns from them. I think the players that like Crystal Palace, they like Crystal Palace and they're not going to be going anywhere else. You've got sort of a fan base here that can't go anywhere else just because of these mobs. They only exist here. And yeah, for that reason, that's sort of where I stand on Crystal Palace deeds. I'm probably going to buy some. I might buy 100 of these deeds. I probably won't buy over that. But yeah, that's where I stand. That's what I think about Crystal Palace deeds, and sort of that's my opinion. If you guys have any comments, questions, anything like that, feel free to ask them down below in the comments. This video went way longer than I thought, but I think I brought up some good points. I think I educated people on just what Crystal Palace is, the history of Crystal Palace, and why you may or may not want to invest in these deeds. But as I said, if you got questions, comments, if you want to have a discussion about this, just comment down below, guys, because I'm always open to talking about it. And yeah, that's it for now. If you're looking at this video and this is the first time, your first introduction to Entropia Universe or to Serial Overdrive, feel free to check out some of the other videos on my channel. I do some other games, but I do a lot of Entropia Universe stuff. So there's always going to be content coming out that you guys might be interested in. Maybe you'll even want to hit the subscribe button and sort of bump up my sub number. That would be cool. But that's it for now, guys. Until next time, peace.